Welcome to Lift Up, a short-form spinoff of the Behind the Wind podcast. Lift Up was created for quick, meaningful conversations, short episodes that explore timely ideas, practical lessons, and thought-provoking topics across leadership, growth, business, and life. Each episode is designed to offer something you can learn today and apply tomorrow. Think of it as a spark, concise insights, real perspective, and actionable takeaways delivered in just a few minutes.
Hello, it's Josh Johnson again with LSI. It's great to be in DC and to lead the office operations and strategy in the DC region for LSI. I thought today, with the experience I have over the past, 40 years now in the DC area, what it entails when you live here, but also what it entails when you work in DC, particularly with a congressional committee. While I was in the Congress as a professional staffer, I spent 17 years on a committee working through a variety of different things. And I'd like to talk a little about what a committee staffer does and the role of a committee staffer. So often when people come to DC, they think I'm meeting with a member of Congress. And in many cases, they think they're meeting with the personal office, when in some cases it may have other folks in there that you may not be aware of, which includes committee staff. Or if it doesn't, how do you get in front of the committee staff? So committee staff are chosen by the chair of the committee, who is a member of the Congress, whether it's a senator or a House member, depending on which side. And you are selected to manage certain portfolios in a committee. And committees range in jurisdiction. So you have the Committee on Transportation, Armed Services, Environment, Public Lands. You can go through small business, a whole host of different names, which they have the jurisdiction to run legislation through and to run hearings to ensure that what is happening people know about, and what should change or be kept the same people know about. So any bill that is introduced in the Congress has to go through or should go through the Congressional committee process. I'll give you an example. For the time I was up there, I served on issues ranging from energy, such as building codes, to public lands, how water is managed, to how energy is developed from renewable energy to other sources of energy, to how water is allotted across the United States, particularly in the Western United States. So any legislation that entailed this type of work would be given to the Committee of Jurisdiction. So let's say that you have a member of Congress you're friends with. They want to introduce a bill, let's say, to increase renewable energy. That bill, even though introduced by a member or a solo member of Congress or multiple members who care about this, once it's introduced, it is put to a committee of jurisdiction. And so the way that it's written depends upon where it will go. Sometimes you think a bill would go to one committee, but certain terminology in it pushes it to another committee. So you always have to think about, when you're doing issues, where do you want it to rest and why? So often people want it to rest with an advocate that they know, because that person can help move it along. So once it goes to the committee, then the committee makes decisions, the chair and the ranking member, the chair being the majority in the majority and the ranking in the minority, make decisions on what bills should come forward and what that process should be. And again, within these committees, you have multiple staff that are assigned different portfolios. And so I'll use the example of water on the, along the Colorado River. Let's say a member is interested in moving water to the environment rather than to farming. Well, there's a whole lot of issues associated with that. How it can be done legally, how it should be done legislatively, can it be done? Those are all things that when a person introduces a bill, the committee starts to look at to determine how to proceed with it or not proceed with it. So you have on the committee what they call professional staff, and you have these folks who are given these portfolios. So you'll have two folks, one from each side, who are the leads for that particular issue. They are assigned the bills that they come through by a legal counsel, by a person in the committee who determines where it should go to a subcommittee or stay at the full committee. Once it's been put into a subcommittee or full committee, that's where the staff comes into play. That's where the staff looks at each of the provisions, why this bill should move forward or not move forward. If it moves forward, who are the people that should come and discuss the bill? Who are the experts? So committee staff gather and they decide for this particular bill, let's say the Colorado River, we want to have 5 perspectives. We want to have a state perspective. We want to have a farming perspective. We want to have a city perspective. We want to have an environmental perspective. And we may want to have a business perspective. Then they think about who would be the right people and they invite them to testify about the issue at hand, whether it is legislation or whether it's just a hearing to say, should we even look at what's happening on, in this case, the Colorado River, or move on to other things. So when you go the route of let's make a tweak or some change to for legislation, then that entails people talking on behalf of it or against it. That process, again, is really driven by the staff. You'll have the member input who has the trusted advisors, in this case, the committee staff, who are making the decisions on who to come testify, what modifications should be to the bill, and how do you shepherd that bill through the entire process? Because even if you get it through the House, let's say that the House committee says, everything looks great, here are the changes, our committee members are all happy, and they let House leadership know they would like to have this bill addressed on the House floor. You have a whole other process in which you're trying to talk to the House leadership about why this is relevant. And of course, never taking for granted that the members are the ones that are in the end making all the decisions. But the staffers are the one who are shepherding and strategically thinking how to move it through. So never lose sight that the committee staff is the, putting all this together, putting everything together so that when it comes for a vote and hopefully leaves the floor, if it's a priority of the committee and the leadership, that it will then go to the other body. And in this case, if it passes the House, to the Senate, which you have a similar makeup. You have staff, you have a process in the Senate that will take the bill and put it to the committee where they believe the jurisdiction should rest. And so in this case, what I'm discussing on the Colorado River, it would likely go to the Energy Committee, although there are some other nuances that could push it somewhere else. So committee staff or the people who are referring need to be really alert to how it's written so that if you're interested or a member's interested to push something through, that it doesn't get caught in some committee back and forth fighting when you didn't intend that to be. So again, in the Senate, you have a similar process. You have folks who are experts in these particular issues who are assigned the bill when it comes through, and then the decision is made on how to move that bill through the process. And it's on a weekly basis, there could be several of these bills coming through to a committee that are being asked to provide input on or to being asked to move it through the process. But in the end, even though it does happen where it may not go, it might bypass a committee process, 90+% of bills go through a fairly straightforward, rigorous process that in the end could lead to the signing of the bill once it passes both the House and Senate and moves to the president for signature. I would encourage you always to get to know who are the committee staffers in the areas you care about. Again, they are the ones who are putting it all together. Sometimes you might think, oh, this member of Congress's staff was so kind to me in the personal office and said, yes, we'll do everything we can to get this through. And when you look at that member of Congress, they're not on the committee. They don't have really any oversight other than being a personal office member to that member. And they have to go through the whole process of asking the committee why this should go forward. And in particular, if the member's not on there, it makes it that much more complicated. So from a strategic standpoint, you always want to know when you're moving things through who can shepherd this the best through the process. And it really is understanding who is the committees of jurisdiction of the issue that you're interested in. It's not to say that members don't have a say when they're not on a committee. It just means that the committee of jurisdiction in the end is the one who will be placing the importance of and priority of this bill going through. Again, we can deal more into the committee process as these podcasts go forward, but this is just a high-level overview that get to know committee staff in the Congress, and it will make your life a lot easier, particularly if you are trying to raise an issue or trying to move a change to legislation, whether it's getting rid of something or adding on to something. And it will just make it a simpler, easier process going forward.